Edward William Saldana, Secretary MDES, Reverend Father Naveen Kumar A, Treasurer MDES, our distinguished speaker for today's session, Dr. Georgios Fernandez, Professor and Dean, Management Studies and International Affairs, St. Albert's College, Kerala, Dr. Chandrasekhara Hechin, Principal, and Ms. Naina KS, IQAC Coordinator, to this session. Now, it is my distinct privilege to introduce our esteemed resource person, Dr. Georgios Fernandez. Dr. Georgios Fernandez is an ardent academician, researcher, author, and educational leader who currently serves as the Dean of Management Studies and International Affairs at St. Albert's College, Ernakulam, a position he has held since June 2017. A recipient of the prestigious National Education Leadership Award at 26th Devang Mehta National Education Awards in 2018, Dr. Geo has made significant contributions to the field of management education and research. Holding a doctorate in management and an MBA, he brings extensive expertise in both qualitative and quantitative research, consulting, and academic leadership. As a dedicated mentor and scholar, Dr. Geo has successfully guided three doctoral scholars to the completion of their PhD degrees. He is also an accomplished author, having written books in the field of management and has published more than 20 research in reputed international journals. His academic work has been presented at numerous international conferences, earning recognition from scholars and professionals alike. Beyond academia, Dr. Geo has actively engaged with industry through workshop training programs and expert lectures delivered to leading organizations such as ONGC, OIL, Total, HPCL, and IOCL, both in India and abroad. His ability to bridge academic excellence with industry relevance has made him a respected voice in management education. Known for his adaptability, strong communication skills, and ability to collaborate effectively in multicultural environments, Dr. Geo continues to inspire students, educators, researchers, and industry professionals through his commitment to excellence and lifelong learning. Today, Dr. Georgios Fernandez will engage us on the topic Introduction to NAC Binary Accreditation and NAC Preparedness. We are confident that his expertise and insights will make this session highly enriching and beneficial to all the participants. Without further delay, I now invite Dr. Georgios Fernandez to take over the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, ma'am. This is to understand the audience. How many of you doesn't have a NAC accreditation as on date? Hello? You could raise your hands on the system or you could unmute yourself. One, which means the rest of them has got at least two. Okay, so which means the rest of you has got NAC accreditation. So you'd be going for MBGL if I'm correct. That is maturity based graded levels. Now I'm trying to compress a 2 day workshop into 2 hours. So if you have any doubts, any questions which arises, please stop me then and there itself so that we'll clarify those doubts and move forward. Please don't feel bad that what others might think, because everyone would have the same doubt, and unfortunately they are also thinking the same way what others would think, and they are not asking the question. So if you have a question, please ask then and there itself, because I'm going to go a bit fast, since it's almost 8 hour session. I'm gonna compress it to 2 hours. uh, for those who doesn't have NAC accreditation as on date, I'm just giving you an idea. If we go to in Indian scenario, we have the UGC. Under UGC, we have got various regulatory authorities, and one of the authorities which we will be focusing on is AICTE. that is for BBA as well as for BCA, AICD, and the MBA program or the MCA program, which I think majority of the audience would be from. Otherwise, then we have got engineering programs where AICT looks into, as well as the hotel management programs that they look into. So AICT is a regulatory body which just approves the course. Then we have got NAC, which accredits an institution's quality measures that they have undertaken. So they look at the output as well as the input parameter. Now, in NAC, till last year, it was for 5 years. That is, once I go for a NAC accreditation, once I'm NAC accredited with an A plus plus or an A plus or a or a B, what happens is I get a NAC accreditation for 5 years. I could go after 3 years, but usually the institutions doesn't go. They usually wait for another 5 more years, unless until they have a huge grievance that they want to go in another 3 years time. Then we have an NBA. We call it as National Board of Accreditation. NBA is basically a program accreditation. That means I am an engineering college. I have got five BTech degrees: BTech in civil engineering, BTech in chemical engineering, BTech in electronics and communication engineering. NBA doesn't give accreditation to my institution. It gives accreditation to one of my programs. Let's say BTech in computer applications. So the institution cannot say like we are an NBA accredited institution. They can say computer science is accredited with NBA. NBA accreditation focuses only on the program. Then comes your NIRF, which is an annual ranking parameter, where every year we have to give data with respect to our admissions, with respect to the higher educational progression, with respect to our scholarships, with respect to the income and expenditure related to the library or the co-curricular, all these aspects that comes into. Now we have SDGs as well as, oh, now we have sustainability as well as innovation linked to it, wherein if you look at one concept, and then we have IASHE rankings, where the IASHE survey, we have to give data. Now, 3, 4 years back, when Radhakrishnan Committee was introduced, one of the striking factors that was looked into or was noted was the data that has been given by an institution on various aspects, NIRF, IASHE, or the NAC. There is ambiguity on the data. That is, there is difference in the numbers being mentioned. So they come up with a concept that one data, one nation policy. In the sense, whatever data I've entered to IASHE, that has to be the same as an NIRF. That has to be same as per NAC documents or the SSR documents that we are going to submit. That has to be as per the SIR document that we are going to submit with NBA. In NAC, we have SSR. In NBA, we have got SAR. So the data has to be same. And that is why, if you look at the NIRF recently, also they said the data has to be perfectly right. They have been mentioning it again and again because we are going for one data, one nation policy. Now, why NAC? I think many of you know since you have got NAC accreditation. I'm going to skip this slide. Then comes, this is just an idea of how the NAC have shifted since 1994. Now, if you look at 2017 was a year where we had, oh, I'm sorry, 2017 was a year where we had the RAF, Revised Accreditation Framework. Before that, that is, if you look on to the left-hand side of my slide, till March 31st, the NAC accreditation was purely based on the qualitative metrics. That is, the three, the vice chancellor, the principal of a college, and the NAC coordinator who comes as a peer team usually looks at your quality, looks at your infrastructure, looks at various data that you present, and they used to decide what rank we should give to them. Or what grade that we have to give, not rank, my mistake, that was my mistake, what grade that we have to give to them. And after 2017, when the revised accreditation framework was introduced, we call it as RIF, they came up with an option wherein 70 percentage of our data is on quantitative metrics and 30 percentage would be qualitative. That means even before the peer visit, we can actually make an understanding what would our grades be. Even if we get 100%, 30% perfect score from peer team, this is going to be our grade. If we get 80% perfect score from peer team, this is going to be our grade. It helps us to understand. So 80% was predetermined in the sense whatever data we enter, they verify. If they have a question, they ask for validation. And once the validation is done, then there comes for the peer team visit. And then the 30% goes on a qualitative metrics. Let's say best practices, our innovation resources and criterion tree, or varies from all criterion or seven criterions. Then if you look at, um, I'm just going to skip to the next slide. So this was going on beautifully. It was being done. Later on, when we look at the stat, we have about 17, sorry, we have about 15,000 odd standalone institutions, 51,000 alone colleges, arts and science colleges, and we have about 1,315 institutions of, of universities. The number is approximately 67, 68,000. Whereas if you look at the bottom table here, total number of accreditations as on 2023, the in the first cycle alone, we have about 10,000 institutions. That means they have either gone for NAC accreditation since 2019 for the very first time. Out of a total of 16,700 institutions, almost 9,900 institutions went for NAC accreditation from the year of 2019, which means out of 67,000 institutions, there are about 50,000 institutions who doesn't have a NAC accreditation. And that is the reason why they started looking into how can we ensure every institution could go for NAC accreditation. So they came up with a Radhakrishnan committee which clearly said ranking of all higher education institutions in India has to be conducted. And it has to be a periodic approval, assessment, and accreditation process. And one of the changes that they have said here was they said, let's not, for the very first cycle, let's not have a grade designed for them. Let's just say approved, accredited, not accredited, or provisionally accredited. So it motivates institutions to go for accreditations. So it basically says accredited, not accredited, or provisionally. The second thing they said was let's have a maturity based graded level. Instead of us going from grade A plus plus A or A plus or B, they said let's go with an option wherein it's level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, or level 5. Level 1 is basic compliance, and level 5 is of international standards. So the very first accreditation would be on binary perspective. It just says you are accredited, not accredited, or provisionally accredited. Whereas from accreditation 2 onwards, we'll have MBGLs, maturity based graded levels proposed. So when I look at the paradigm, okay. So when I look at the Radhakrishnan committee report, if you look, it's going to be a simple, trust-based, credible system. Whatever data you're gonna enter, they say like it's gonna be a trust-based, but it's been verified through a centralized database. When I use the term verified through a centralized database, which means that whatever data you want to enter for IRSHE or for NIRF, it's going to verify it. It's going to use technology driven models. Recently, there was a discussion about AI linking to check the NAC SSR documents that you're going to submit, as well as it's going to check into your LMS, because we basically in the till the last NAC cycles, everyone usually put across the screenshots of your LMS. It's not been verified. Whereas there's a discussion going on saying like AI is going to check into your LMS, saying like how effectively it's been used. So to minimize or to replace the manual involvement, they're going to use modern techniques. That's what it's been discussed. So we'll have 5 levels of maturity based graded system, wherein 1 to 4 is 1 is basic compliance, 4 is like institution of national excellence, and 5 is with global excellence, who has got multidisciplinary research. They Yes, Dr. Soumya. Dr. Soumya, you have raised your hand just now. Dr. Soumya Praveen. Okay. Uh, so they have 5 levels, which from the second accreditation onwards, as I said, the first accreditation for those who are going to go, it's just 3 levels: accredited, not accredited, or provisionally accredited. Whereas from the second accreditation onwards, we'll basically have the 5 levels. Again, as I said, it's going to be one nation, one data platform. Whatever data I'm going to enter on all the portals has to be same. RAF, that is Revised Accreditation Framework, there were 7 criteria. In your new process, we are expecting 10 criterion. Majority of the criteria in 7 has been replicated or has been tweaked into these 10. We look into in a bit faster manner, we look into those things. And then they're going to focus on data. They're not going to focus on your writing skills, your qualitative. No, they want to have hardcore numbers being shown and hardcore proofs being put across, so as to ensure that whatever you focus or whatever you proposes is correct. The paradigm shift here is the previous NAT usually looks or focus on whether the desired outcomes are met. It was easier for all the institutions to focus on what is essential. Whereas when you come down to or the new framework, they look at basically the input, the process, and the output basis. Okay, so there was a lot of workshops being conducted on how to move forward. I'm just gonna go forward with this session. Now, when you look, there are 3 criteria or the 3 processes that they look at: input, then we have got the process, then we have got the output. When you look at the input criterion, they basically look at, if I need to run a program, I need to have a syllabus. The syllabus should have certain aspects: entrepreneurship, Indian knowledge system, and before that, it also needs to have the skill enhancement. It needs to have the practical orientation. It should be linked with national skill councils, and it speaks about how well your syllabus has been devised. What's the process? So how the syllabus. So it basically looks, when I use the term input, these are the input requirements that we currently have in the institution. So the first one is curriculum design, which basically speaks about as I said, various aspects of how my curriculum was developed. What are a part of my curriculum? So the questions like, is my syllabus revised regularly? Whether it looks into the trends, it looks into the technologies, whether it is integrated projects, internships, whether these syllabus or the courses aligns with my institution's vision. We speak about program outcome, we speak about program specific objectives and course outcomes, right? So it's a link. When I use the course outcome, earlier days, we have an exam based system wherein we say the student writes the exam, he gets a particular mark, he's cleared the exam. That's how even today is going to happen. When it comes to the new accreditation framework, they look at whether the outcomes are met or not. So let's look into the concept of how we decide whether outcomes are met. This is just for the easy understanding. I'm going to use a term. My course, or the course that I'm going to teach, is continental cooking, which means my syllabus contains cooking noodle, cooking pasta, and cooking lasagna. Okay, these are the three modules. One is noodle, one is pasta, the third one is lasagna, the fourth one is pizza. Okay, so my course outcome is students can make excellent pasta. Now, our current examination system is such wherein the question is make a Alfredo pasta. Students will write it, but the taste would differ student to student. So there could be various evaluation methods. So I'll say we'll have an internal system, internal exam, where student has to make pasta in campus and will taste. So that is one way of assessing the student. So there is an exam. Other than that, we are going to say we are going to have a taste test. The third one is we are going to say for continental thing, the cutting has to be perfect. So we'll check how the students cut ingredients, the smell. So various aspects we'll say, like if the student makes perfect pasta, he has attained the levels. Okay. So the course attainment, what we do is we say 70% of my students can make excellent pasta. If only 60% students have made excellent pasta in my internal examination, which means the outcomes has not met. There's no problem in that. If it's not met, there's no problem. You create an action to be taken report. That means how will I attain my course in the next semester? Next semester is next year. When these kids comes into picture, how am I going to ensure 70% of my kids is going to attain? That means you're trying to improve. Once 70% students attain that, you will change the course attainment status. You say 80% of my students are going to make best pasta. This course outcome is linked to a program outcome, or sorry, the program specific outcomes. Once my student passes out the culinary program, BA in culinary, they are going to make best continental food. So my course is linked to my program specific objective. So this program specific objective is linked to my program outcome. The students are employable, which is linked to my vision statement. Okay, so whether are our programs mapped with my mission, vision, as well as my courses, that again looks in your input. Then comes faculty resource. That's another input you're going to put. How qualified my faculty are. Do I have 100% faculty teaching in my institution? Because there are certain institutions where there is lack of faculty. Now, does my teachers have UGC qualifications? Because UGC was last year, they said either they need to have a net qualification or a PhD. So for net qualification, if your teachers doesn't have, please recommend them. I think 20th is the last day to apply for net, this June net. So please, 20th is the last day. You could always motivate them to apply for. So do they have that? Does my teacher student ratio good enough? Which basically they say 1 is to 20. For every 20 students, one teacher has to be there. Then comes the infrastructure. Do I have a very good ample enough classrooms? Do I have ample enough of digital resources? Do I have ample enough of labs? Does my library has got good enough books? Whether my campus is clean, whether amenities are being provided for students. That's again an input. For when the student comes, they're going to use these inputs. And then comes the financial resources and management. Are the budget needs met? Are there money spent on student the operational expenses on the needs of the students, that is library, laboratories, etc.? Do we get external grants, funds, CSR funds, consulting revenue? Do we have enough funds to develop capital resources? So the input basically focus on four things. One is the syllabus. Second thing is your faculty. Third thing is infrastructure. And the fourth one is financial resources. Then comes the output. That means these are the inputs. When a student comes, an institution needs these four things. Otherwise, the college is not there. Now, once the students join, they go through a process, teaching and learning process, which means we look at what are the various uh, teaching and learning, the innovative teaching practices that has been adopted. What are the various student engagement and participating methods we have looked into? That comes under process. How is evaluation being done? That again comes under the process. Then comes the extended curricular engagements. So when I look at the extended curricular engagements, it speaks about various clubs, domain clubs, arts clubs, whether these kids are in these clubs, whether they are gaining various needs that they need to attain your program outcome through these clubs, through these activities. And then comes the governance, administration, the leadership, how well the institution is being run, where it focuses on the transparency, it focuses on the structure of the institution, it focuses on the effectiveness of the leadership. And then comes the IQAC, the quality assurance under the governance and administration. What are the quality measures being proposed and brought in? And then we have the output. So when I use the term the output, it looks at the student outcomes, the awards won by students, the progression of students, whether they have cleared the pass percentage. They looks at the higher education, how many of them have gone for progress to higher education, how many of them got placed, how many of them started their own company. It looks at whether the program outcomes are being met or not. It also looks at the stakeholder satisfaction, that is your student satisfaction. One of the major changes that's been proposed is last NAC cycles, if you look, 50 or 60% of my all the students gets a link to give the student satisfaction survey. Out of this, if you look at 20% of students response, that's fine. But in the new case, they change. They say, along with the students, last 3 years alumni data also has to be given. So earlier, the institutions usually takes kids along with them to a computer lab, ask the kids, motivate them to give a better ranking, better score. When it comes to the new system, they say the alumni is also going to get the satisfaction survey form, which means it's not about the current students you're going to focus during NAC cycle, the students on all the 3 years, even when if they pass out during your NAC cycle or during your NAC visit, the students has to be satisfied. Your research innovation outcomes are again assessed here. The research grants, the research publications, the books, the conference proceedings under indexed conference proceedings. That's again looked into. And then comes sustainability outcomes and green initiatives that has been given by your institution. So these are the 10 criteria. If you look at, you can see these are the 10 criteria that they focus on in the system. Okay. So we have 10 criteria with curriculum design. And if you look at, I've given three columns, one for university, one for autonomous college, another for affiliated college system. What are the various things that comes under input, process, and output? What are the total scores for an autonomous colleges, for a universities, for an affiliated colleges? Now this might change. This I've taken from the latest document that's been shared by NAC. Now during our stakeholder meeting that happened way back in 2024, after which we are waiting for the new document to come into, which has not yet released. We are waiting for that document. So I've taken from the last document where we had a meeting in Bangalore, which I've used for this purpose. Okay, now let's just look into the MBGL. So there are some people who have to go for binary. There are some people who has to go for MBGL. If you are already accredited, your next cycle is on MBGL. Okay, so under maturity based graded level system, basically it looks into how effectively you have implemented or you have taken quality initiatives in each criterion. Depending on the maturity that you have attained in each criteria, you'd either be ranked from 1 to level 5. Level 5 is high maturity, which means of global excellence you are into. One is basic compliance, and you have complied basic in terms. Okay, this I have already showcased. Already I've discussed this. So when I look at the MBGL graded levels, as I said, we have the 5 levels that comes into. Level 1 is emerging institution. Level 2 is developing institution. Level 3 is established institution. Level 4 is advanced institution or of national excellence. And level 5 is institution of global excellence. So every institution should focus on level 4 or on level 5, because that is where now we have to focus on if you are in the second, third, fourth, or the fifth cycle of NAC. I've already discussed about one nation, one data platform. Now, as I said earlier, it's basically focused on a transparency based system wherein they believe whatever data you provide, it's a trust based system where they believe that as an institution, you're going to focus on the integrity of the institution. And they said we are going to have minimal visits unless until it's level 5. Level till level 4, they'll have minimal visits. Rather, they'll have an online visit proposed. And then they'll also have heavy penalty if the data is found to be wrong. So it's always better that your data, whatever you provide, has to be perfectly correct. Now, I'll give you a very simple example. I'm not going to name the institution. This was given to me way back in 2024, sorry, 2023 or 2022, to understand the SSR and AQR of some of the institutions, to understand how they are different. So one of the institutions who has got an A plus plus grade, when we look at, they have done almost 100 value added courses in the SSR. That means 100 value added courses is like more than 50 value added courses. The NAC quality assessment tool says they are going to get the maximum for weightage. So they've had almost 100 value added courses. Whereas when we looked or when we went back to the AQAR, that is annual quality assurance report that you submit to NAC every year after their after their first cycle onwards, the shocking fact was that when we clubbed all these 4 years of AQAR, they had less than 20 value added courses. And on the fifth year, it went out to 100. So that's the reason I said whatever data you're going to give has to be perfect, because now it's going to be mapped. All right. So no one can just increase the numbers for the sake of doing it and creating documents. It's not going to happen in the future. All right. Now, again, another aspect that has been come into the discussion was that we had DVV. DVV is where the institutions used to get, or the IQAC used to get the queries, the questions from NAC team on the quantitative parametrics that you have put across. And the IQAC has got some time, almost 15 days time, to revert back with proof to substantiate the points that you have put across. Whereas there was a discussion going on, the DVV now would be focused towards the faculty, student, and IQAC. Earlier, the IQAC knows what's the data that has been put across, they know how to substantiate it. Now, the faculty should also know what data has been put across. Students also should know that what data has been put across, how to substantiate, because they could ask questions. This was again, there was a discussion going on that the DVV should be to students and faculty rather than to IQAC, directed to IQAC. Anyway, IQAC would be asked, but students and faculty will also be asked the similar kind of questions so that they can understand whether there is any change. Now, this is a question that many of the institutions usually ask: do we have time? Now, if you have completed your first accreditation cycle, that means you have already once accredited. You have, and your accreditation period gets over in 2025 or in 2026. You or in 2024, because 2024 onwards, I have not gone for NAC visits, has been very minimal. So if your NAC accreditation got over in 24, 25, or 26, and now you are in the extension period, which NAC has already given an extension till the MBGL guidelines are released. As per the latest notification from NAC, you have got 3 months of time within the MBGL framework is released. Within these 3 months, you have to apply for the NAC accreditation. This is for those who have already once accredited, whose cycle or whose accreditation got over in 24, 25, and 26, who has not gone further for NAC accreditation, because you are on an extension which NAC has given till MBGL framework is released. That extension has been given. NAC says we have got 3 months from the notification of MBGL framework you have to apply for, which means you have to start working from today onwards. Don't think like in the last 3 months we can back work for 3 years. It's not possible. So please start working now onwards. Okay. Now, I'm going to skip these challenges that we could face because of the time limitation that we have. But as I said again, ensure that IQAC, along with the management, plays a vital role in ensuring that the data is effectively managed. As an institution, you should keep quality improvement benchmarks in terms of institution, in terms of departments, in terms of faculty teacher level. Every teacher has to publish at least one paper per year. Every teacher has to have at least 1.5 conference proceedings every year. That means in 2 years they should have at least three indexed conference proceedings or three books published. IQAC should set benchmarks. Now, the next slides I'm gonna focus on. This is just an introduction I've given you for 30 minutes. The next slides I'm gonna focus on each criteria, where as an institution you should set your own benchmarks, because you know where you stand, where exactly your levels are. So if you need to work on that, do an audit. You have an internal team, do an audit to understand where you stand. And then you have to create what I have to achieve in the next 2, 3 years. Other difference from the previous NAC to the new NAC is previous NAC was for 5 years. The new is for 3 assessment years. So every 3 year, you can go for NAC accreditation as per the new binary accreditation framework. Okay. Now let's focus on to your criterion one, curriculum design. From now on, I'll be going a bit slower. The earlier was the introduction part. Does anyone have any questions till now? Any of you have any questions on the introduction part? Okay. And I'm really sorry, I'm going a bit faster because, as I said, it's a almost a 8 to 10 hour workshop that I'm trying to make it into 2 hours. Okay. Criterion one is where we speak about curriculum design. If you look onto the top right hand side, if you look onto the top right hand side, I have mentioned universe or univ, that is university. It's 15 weightage, which means 15 into 4, it has got 60 marks. Auto is autonomous, which means 15 weightage into 4 weight, 15 marks into 4 weightage. It's again 60 marks. Affiliation, affiliated colleges, it's not applicable. Okay. So when you look at on the right hand side top, I've given the weight, the marks, and then weightages into 4. So either get 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. Now onto the left you can see a green circle. If I mention N there, that's either new or they have revised from the previous NAC benchmark, from revised accreditation framework. They have either revised it or they have actually created this as a new criterion in this criteria. Okay, the first is outcome based curriculum. In earlier one, they used to ask how many courses were there in entrepreneurship on skill, whereas here they're going to focus on your PO, your PSOs, your CO, which means your board of studies, your approved, your academic council, and the other councils. If it's a of autonomous college, it's governing council. If it's a university, you have got the your senate, your etc., where you basically approves the syllabus approved by the academic council. PSOs and COs. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the PO, PSOs, and COs has to be mentioned. Either the minute should say that the PO, PSOs, and COs of these courses were discussed and is annexed as an annexure A. So the curriculum documents should have PO, PSO, and CO. Your syllabus should have that. The approved minutes is what they have asked for. The approved minutes of BOS, Academic Council, which means these terms have to be mentioned and annexures has to be attached. Or in the minutes itself, you can have these POPSOs added on, or it can be added on as an annexure. Now, as an additional document, I said when you have this minimalistic, it's basic compliance. If you need to go for excellence, you need to keep more documents. So it's always good if you can keep a metrics, a outcome mapping metrics. How is your PO mapped with PSOs? How is your PSO mapped with your how is your PSO mapped with your CO? You could have your course plans, which means every institution should have a course plan which every teacher follows the same format. And that course plan should also have how are you going to evaluate the course attainment calculations. How will you evaluate each course outcome? So it shows the basic compliance is what I've shown as required documents. To go further, you should add on documents like outcome metrics, your course plans, as well as your assessment reports. The next comes is what we call as stakeholder participation. What happens is this is again, it should have the approved minutes of BOS, Academic Council, Senate. What happens is in the previous NAC binary accreditation framework, we spoke about the feedback collected from teachers, students. It speaks about from parents, from industry. Similar way, you have to collect stakeholder feedback. This question doesn't say whether you have collected stakeholder feedback. It says whether it's been involved or not, which means you have to collect the stakeholder feedback on syllabus. After which, it has to be analyzed. After analysis, you have to recommend it to your BOS. If you're an autonomous college or a university, how many of you are from a university or an autonomous college here? So I need to check whether I need to focus onto that or not. Is there anyone from a university or from a autonomous college here in this group? Okay, Uma ma'am is there. All right. So, ma'am, you're from autonomous college or from university, ma'am? Uma ma'am, you can chat, type in, ma'am. Ma'am, you're from an autonomous college or a university because I just want to focus on that, those two then. Autonomous college. Okay. So I'll skip university then. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. So we have two faculty from autonomous college. So I'll focus on autonomous and affiliated college then. So what happens is when these data is available, which means you have got the stakeholder feedback. On that feedback, in your BOS, you have to mention that these comments were came in. We had a stakeholder feedback. In the stakeholder feedback, these were proposed, which means you have analyzed the feedback, and from that analysis is being presented in your BOS. And it's up to the BOS to decide whether it is required or not. Say, for example, we have got a curriculum revision committee which analyzes the feedback from various aspects. So they have given us a suggestion that in entrepreneurship management, a subject that we teach, 3 modules has to be purely project. 2 modules is basics you have to teach. 3 modules has to be project, or a student has to create a product. We take it to the BOS, and BOS rejected the suggestion. They said uh, the project cannot be evaluated since it's a theory paper. 5 modules has to be there, but the project can be added as an additional component in an innovative teaching practice. Then that is fine. There is no problem in that. The BOS can decide whether to reject or accept it, but you have to give the suggestion. Once the suggestion is given, either the BOS accepts it or rejects it, not a problem, but it has to be documented in the minutes that this suggestion was brought in from the stakeholder feedback and the BOS has accepted it as an additional module or an extra module into it. Once it's been done, it goes to the academic council. You need to have again in the academic council being mentioned about the stakeholder feedback. So in the academic council, it mentions about stakeholder feedback were collected from various departments, which is further evaluated by the BOS, and suggestions were recommended in the syllabus and is brought forward to academic council. Academic council doesn't have to say for each program. That's been done by BOS. It collectively says. For an affiliated college, you have to do this. You have to you have to analyze the report, compile it, send it to the university. Okay. So the for the affiliating college, 10 marks is for you sending it to the university. Whether university takes it or not, you're not bothered. But you need to have the proof that you have actually sent it to university, which means you have done a stakeholder feedback. Earlier days, the question was very simple. Stakeholder feedback collected from all of the above, 3 of the above, 2 of the above, 1 of the above. You get 0, 1, 2, 3. All of the above means you get 4 weightage. Here, it's not about collected, it's about analyzed. uh, Earlier days it was like whether you have collected, analyzed, action taken, you say yes. Here proof is required. So it's not just about saying that we have done it, it's about showing it that we have done it. Okay. The next one is curriculum flexibility. That is whether you have choice based credit system or not. Students can have whether you have a credit based system where you have an elective system where students can choose, I can go with these electives. Whether you have got multiple entry, multiple exit option or not. Since it's a 4-year program in many of the universities and affiliated colleges, I think every one of you would have a multiple entry, multiple exit option. For affiliated colleges, it's not bothered. I'm talking about autonomous colleges here. Then the next question is whether you have credit transfer from other institutions. I think again under NEP it's allowed that after 1 year I could transfer to another institution. So whether it's allowed, whether you have major and minor options or not, whether you use Bharatiya Bhashas, that means you allow teachers to teach students to write exams in Bharati Bhasha, or you have languages, Hindi, Malayalam, Kannada, Tamil being taught. So all these things can be put across. Now, it's not about you just say, okay, we have got multiple entry, multiple exit. Don't say like that. You need to have a policy document which says you have got a multiple entry, multiple exit. You should have details on how they are implemented, the procedure for multiple entry, multiple exit. If some students have exited after a program and came back after a year, you need to have proof for that. Curriculum design, again, in terms of credit based, choice based system, you should have documents for that. For the basic compliance, I've shown on the right hand side. BOS is enough where your BOS minutes should say that multiple entry, multiple exit is allowed and transfer is allowed, or your academic council minutes should say that because it's basically an institutional policy that you're looking into. So your governing council minutes should say that we allow multiple entry, multiple exit, whereas your BOS should have CBCS, electives, etc. being mentioned, depending on the institutional or the department level. That is for the basic compliance, level 1. If you're going to level 5, you need to have policy statements which we are showcased. You should have procedures being set across. You should have office notifications sent across on ABC. On credit transfer agreements, you should have an MOU. For credit transfer agreements, you should conduct programs where the transfer documents should be kept. So when you look at, it's all about evidence, it's all about policy, it's all about procedure, it's all about data that they're going to look into. So for two of you, Uma ma'am and uh, uh, Uma ma'am and Sarojini ma'am, please, you should have these documents ready if you want to look at two, three, four, or five levels that you're going to focus on. The next that comes across is the practical and industry focus. That is, what percentage of your course or your program, in your program, various courses, offers field projects, skill based trainings. We call it as internships, on the job trainings, hands on experience. So I would request uh, the autonomous colleges, please ensure that your programs has got these with projects and internships embedded under NEP. I think everyone will have that, so there is not a problem in that. So because under all the universities has got under NEP the apprenticeship added in fourth year, as well as the internships added in the second year. So majority of your programs would cover this. It asks about the course contents approved by BOS, Academic Council, and the Senate Council. That's fine. Other than that, if you want to showcase more for skill based, for apprenticeship, for internships, for projects, you would be sending students to various institutions. Have a letter, acceptance letter, keep the letter. If you can create MOUs with various industries for this, that will again add value. If you can keep reports of students, the reports of field projects, that will again add value. If you can keep the course syllabus where these things are being mentioned, that will add value. So always ensure that you have got these documents ready to for an additional document submission. This adds value to your documentation process. Then comes the skill orientation. The question is whether your courses are linked with National Credit Framework or with NSQF. NSQF, you have got various skill sector councils. Let's take an example. You have got Retail Management Council. Now, they have got a certificate program, which if a student completes two courses or three courses, they get the certificate course of that particular skill sector council. Look at these skill sector councils and see whether your program or your course could be mapped. If yes, well and good, you can actually showcase a skill metrics, showcasing that your courses are linked to NSQF, National Skill Qualification Framework. For that, you need to have a skill mapping metrics added on. Along with that, you need to have an assessment report where you evaluated how have you evaluated students under these skill qualification frameworks or not. So that can be kept. This is for autonomous college. The next one is again for autonomous college, which asks whether you have Indian knowledge system implemented. It could be certificate course. It could be workshops or seminars. The best thing is June 20th is the World Yoga Day. Do you have a yoga day organized institution? Along with that, you add a seminar, let's say meditation workshop or 4 hour workshop on meditation. You get marks or points on that. Whether IKS is a part of your curriculum. Now in our college, this is again for autonomous college, in our college, majority of the programs has got one course as IKS. For MBA, we have got a course on ethics and ethics from scriptures. We have got business ethics as a course in which we have ethics from scripture. So we focus on Mahabharata, we focus on Ramayana, we focus on Bible and Quran. We take lessons from those scriptures on ethics. So it could be anything. It could be on yoga. It could be if you have mathematics, have for BSc Max, have Vedic mathematics as a course. So if you have botany, have a course on Ayurvedic medicines. If you have a course, so as I said, look at courses in each. I mean, look at your programs. If you can add one course into each program on IKS, you get more projects or you get marks. For an autonomous college, you need to have a center of IKS, center of Indian knowledge system, which is going to focus on all these aspects, who looks into these things and ensure that it's been done. Okay, that's for an autonomous college. Then comes your online and blended learning. I think under NEP in the fourth semester, in the fourth year, student has an option to go for a online course where the credit transfer has been allowed by the universities. That is on Swayam or on Swayam Plus they can do, and eight up to 8 credits the marks can be evaluated and calculated. That's what in Kerala we have under NEP. Similarly, majority of the governments would have the similar kind of concepts in terms of NEP that they would have implemented. If not, please start asking students to apply for SWAYAM and SWAYAM Plus courses. Let the institutions have an enrollment data. In this enrollment data, where it's been mentioned online courses, let each of these institutions who has got this SWAYAM data map their curriculum to these SWAYAM courses. If you have got let's say zoology, BSc zoology, identify 2 or 3 courses related to zoology in Swayam and Swayam Plus, and ask students to attend those courses so that it gets added value to students. Along with, you can map that to your program. So please, it's already there in semester in year 4 of your NEP, National Education Policy. Under National Education Policy, it's already there, except in Karnataka where NEP has been taken out. The 4-year degree programs has been taken out. That's my understanding. But whereas other states already have a 4-year program, the fourth year they have a component on SWAYAM and SWAYAM Plus. So if you don't have that, please start mapping with the policy and start doing on that. And then comes the curriculum revision. It's again for autonomous college. Frequency of curriculum revision. And it's always good every 3 year you revise your curriculum. And it's always good, the revision has to be more than 20 percentage, because in the last RIF, revised accreditation framework, the NAC was very particular that 4 weightage has been given to institutions who has got more than 20 percentage of the syllabus revised. So please, 100% of the programs your syllabus has to revise, and each program a minimum of 20% change to be introduced. Now, this is for basic compliance where you have the minutes, academic council, BOS minutes are there. But to increase the levels in MBGL, you should have a need assessment report. That means if you're going to change the syllabus, there has to have a need. You just cannot, from the whims and fancies, you cannot change the syllabus. You need to have a need assessment report where it's a survey or a report which shows that we have got various input from faculty, students, alumni, industry, which says that this change has to be brought in and why that change has to be brought in. You should have revision reports. That means in this program, these many courses, syllabus has been changed. In each course, what has been changed? So if they ask for the summary of changes, you can just hand it over. You can upload it, summary of changes and additional documents. Along with that, the approved syllabi also has to be given. Okay, that is criterion 1. Any questions in criterion 1? Any of you have any questions in criterion 1? I'm again apologizing.
No, sir.
I'm going a bit faster. I'm really sorry. The basic reason being I need to finish off 10 criteria in 2 hours. That's the reason I'm going a bit fast. Okay.
No, sir. We can able to cope up with this.
I didn't get you, ma'am. Indu, ma'am?
We can able to cope up with your speed, sir. No issues. You can go.
All right. Now we are going to go to criteria number 2. So criterion 1 is an input. Criterion 2 is again a part of your input. The first one is faculty student ratio. Okay, there was a mistake I made here. The required document is the student list and the faculty list. that I just copy pasted from the previous slide, the box. So that was my mistake. I just copy pasted. So it's not the approved minutes. It's basically the list of students and faculty that they're looking at, signed by the principal. So faculty student ratio. So they look at the number of faculty uh, as per the need. If a teacher, because this is one of the problems with an aided college, I'm speaking from an aided college perspective, teacher recruitment is basically being done by the government. So it doesn't happen like when a teacher is retired, it doesn't happen that immediately the next day a new teacher comes in. What happens is we might go with the government guest lecturer for almost 1 2 years, and then by the time we all the procedures gets completed, and then we get the recruitment. So during this time we have a government guest. The again the guest payment has been done by the government. In that case the knack is very clear. Even if it's a government guest, it can be considered a full-time teacher if he or she teaches 90% of the time in an academic calendar. In an academic calendar of 1 year, 90% of the hours of work has been completed by a teacher. It can be considered as a full-time teacher. There's no point problem with that. Which means if you're an aided college, don't get confused and tense like we have government guests. It's not a full-time teacher. They are a full-time teacher if they are with you for 90% of the academic calendar. There's no point problem with that. Okay. So usually the institution will not have a problem in this. If it's 1:20, that's a very good number. 1:20 is with 4 weightage. Okay. The next is the cadre wise faculty strength. There was a lot of hue and cry in this, wherein they said the professorship in Kerala, especially, getting a professorship is a bit difficult. Uh, Only recently, I think 4 years back or 5 years back only, the professor in an affiliated college was allowed for an aided staff. So there was a hue and cry. So they said it's usually for a university and autonomous college, not for an affiliated college. They're looking at the cadre ratio. Now, the cadre ratio, they have not said what the numbers are, but looking at the AICTE, because if you look at this framework, it's majorly been taken from NBA, National Board of Accreditation, which is a part of AICTE. So we are just reading from the AICTE perspective, it has to be 1 is to 2 is to 6. NIRF also says about 1 is to 2 is to 6. For NIRF, the cadre ratio they speak is 1 is to 2 is to 6. So we also focus here, it could be 1 is to 2 is to 6. Where 1 is professor, 2 is associate, and 6 is assistant professor. So if you have 9 staff members, 1 professor, 2 associate, and 6 is the assistant professorship that they look at. But again, don't worry about we don't have a professor because we are an affiliated college, an autonomous college which is affiliated to a university where they don't give it. Not a problem. It all can be justified. Then comes percentage of teachers with doctoral degree or similar qualification. Now, there was a lot of hue and cry in this. The hue and cry that came into was in the previous cycle, or the previous revised accreditation framework. Along with this, they also said if you have got a net, if you've got a set, if you have got a JRF, if you have got a gate, that can be considered. Whereas in the revised in the this framework, they never mentioned about net. They say a similar qualification, doctoral degree or a similar qualification. So similar qualifications, DBA, that's Doctor of Business Administration, or the so when you look at that perspective, the question comes is, or it will be a fellowship, but the problem is majority of us couldn't have teachers with PhD because there is a limitation of guides. So they said they'll look into it and they'll revert back, but there was no discussion further happen in this. So we are expecting they might come up with UGC, they come up with net, UGC net, or the JRF, or the gate added on to it along with like the revised accreditation framework, but we are not sure. But I would recommend colleges to please motivate your teachers to apply for net because that's the minimum qualification UGC is prescribed. So if you need to get here, it's almost 200 marks for an affiliated college, 50 marks into 4 weightage. So please, qualification is something that you should focus on now. And then comes the average experience of teachers. So it's not speaking about average experience in this institution, It speaks about average experience of the entire experience. I worked in two colleges as on date. I worked in a university as well as I'm working in autonomous college now. So compilation of my two experience of 17 years is what they're going to take. They're not going to take 10 years of my experience in Alberts. They're going to take my total experience of 17 years. Similarly, there could be another person who has got a different experience of 20 years. So they take average of 17 plus 20, that's 37 divided by 2. Okay, so it's not about my experience alone in the institution, it's about experience across my academic career. And it could again add the industry career. Okay, so you have to give the experience certificates as a proof of this. That is criterion 2. Any questions in criterion 2?
No, sir.
Okay. Now we are going to criterion 3. That is again a infrastructure is again an input parameter that we are showing. In criterion 3, we basically focus on infrastructure. The first one is physical infrastructure. Now, this is for an autonomous college I'm looking at. You should have teaching laboratory, you should have research lab, hostel, sports facility, ground, gymnasium, auditorium, seminar hall, health and wellness center, canteen, guest house, transportation facility, separate clean washrooms for girls and boys, clean drinking water facility, and museum and artifacts that I just spoke about. So these are essential as well as auxiliary. So there was a hue and cry in this again. That is, not every institution has got a museum or an artifact that can be kept. So the discussion that came across was we might go up with seven and above out of this. We might go about five or above, then four or above. Similar kind of aspect they'll come into. But again, there's no clarity in this. So these things are necessary for an institution. For museum, what I would suggest to colleges is if you can actually come up with, it says museum or artifacts, you might have your old what do you call microscopes which you're not using now, old equipments of your laboratories which you can take out, you can refurbish it and keep it as an artifact. What we have done is we have got various equipments which we are not using now, which is might be in the 1960s 70s era that we had, which were in a storeroom. We took it, we put it in basically a glass box and we gave a history about it. We had projectors since 19 sorry since early 1940s onwards, the projectors that was there since then. I'm talking about the slide projectors, all these things that we had. We took all those things, we refurbished, and we kept it in a glass box. Similarly, you could look into those, you can show it as artifacts, all these aspects. So what they look into is they ask for the master plan of the campus. That means you should have a master plan of your building in which you have to showcase that lab comes here in this area. You should have geotag photographs. You should have a campus tour video which shows each of these selected options, because now in this will not have physical visits, we usually have online visits. So these things adds value to it. Okay, and then you should have what is the existing norms of the government in your state and whether you have met it or not. Say for example, if it's in Kerala, if it's a 4-story building, we need to have a lift. Our campus is 4 stories, which means we need to have a lift. So we have to show as per the need, we need to have a lift, and this is the lift documents that we have. So we showcase the bills, we put across the photograph, we have a master plan where lift has been shown, and we have a video of the lift put across along with that. So it's a proof that they have shown. Okay, so this is for an autonomous college, whereas for an affiliating college, the requirements are these: teaching laboratories, research lab, hostel, canteen. If you look, they have removed the what do you call if you look at, they have removed the ground sorry the sports facilities, it's a uh, they have removed seminar hall, auditorium, health and wellness center, they have removed. They have removed museum and artifacts. They have removed transportation facilities. They have removed all these aspects. They have removed health as well as wellness centers. They have removed transportation facility. They have removed guest house from the affiliating college. Then we have learning resources. Here, they look at the expenses. How much have you spent on purchase of books? How much have you spent on language lab? If you have a BBA program, as per the AICT requirement, you should have a language lab, which means you need to purchase that. Ebooks, again, if you have a BB or a BCA program, you need to have ebooks. Again, ebooks you have to show. Now purchasing of ebooks is difficult, so what we do is we go with a consortium. When we say consortium, we say we've got NDL, or we have got the National Digital Library, where there are n number of books, or the World Book Consortium, where they've got x number of books which we can use. We have a username password which students can utilize, so you need to show that. And resources, digital resources you have added onto your library. So you need to showcase your income and expenditure statement from your CA. Now, one of the major problems that I've seen is majority of the institutions, that is when we go for audits, majority of the institutions, their auditor statement is there, but it doesn't say is library resources. They just say like, they just add on student curriculum and all the money, because the CA wants to reduce the ledgers being mentioned in a doc on the balance sheet or on the profit and loss statement. But please tell your CA it's not like that. As per NAC, it has to be showcased. That in the annual income and expenditure statement, I have to showcase it. So if you need to increase your ledger numbers, please, you can inform your management that it is required. Average number of books purchased has to be there, because as per AICTE, every year a particular number of books has to be bought for BB and BC alone. Likewise, for the institutions, the book numbers has to be increased. Okay. Now, this is what for basic compliance, auditor statements. To increase your standards, you can have purchase invoices kept. So every year, library books, this is a purchase invoice. For ebooks, this is a purchase invoice. For labs, this is a purchase invoice. You can have library acquisition reports. That means when a book comes to the library, when a book is bought, there's an acquisition register. Have that. You can have accession register. That means my students are accessing books. Membership documents for digital consortiums you can keep. So this is to add value on your documentation. You can add all these things added on to. Okay. Now coming back to the next slide, research resources. This is again for autonomous college. Institution has an e-library. If you don't have, go with Enlist. Advantage with Enlist is you can actually add students usernames, so students can access Enlist from their home, which you can show as an e-library, where you have got e-journals. You get e-journals, get memberships of NDL, Enlist, subscription of e-Shod Sindhu. The question is, autonomous colleges will not get a subscription to e-Shod Sindhu, but again, you can have access from the university for that. Discipline specific database like JGate, JSTOR, plagiarism check software. It doesn't say which plagiarism software, but you need to have a plagiarism check software. Then it speaks about licensed statistical softwares, discipline specific simulation softwares. Then you need to have a centralized instrumentation center. Then discipline specific laboratories. Again, there was a lot of hue and cry in this during the discussion. So they said it might further be like 6 or above, 5 or above. But again, there's no clarity in this. So again, the documents that they asked was e-copy of subscription letters, minutes of the library committee, or other relevant committee where you have to highlight it. That is the basic compliance level 1. Now for further compliance, what I would suggest is if you can have usage statistics, that is the percentage of students using e-library, which means every teacher has to give assignments through e-library. Go to e-library, use this book. Enlist will get you the data, how many students have used every month. Database, if you have a database, how many students have used. So he have usage statistics. Second is, if you have a plagiarism software for your PG programs, you can have the dissertations, their projects has to only have a maximum of 20% plagiarized. Check plagiarism through that. Have the reports kept. Automatically, you have complied. License software agreements. If you have a statistical software like SPSS, have that. If not, even you can have R software. Again, R is open source. You don't have to worry like I don't have money to buy a licensed software. If you don't have, go with R software. If you don't have money to buy Microsoft, have Ubuntu. It's an operating system which is free of cost if it's open source. But your documentation should mention those things, that it's been in your minutes. It should be mentioned that we're going to go with that. So basically, again, if it's a discipline specific laboratory, have records of activities conducted there, projects conducted there. If students goes for laboratory, have the timetable been kept? In that timetable, mention which in this date which experiment was conducted, so that it shows that these things are there. It's been continuously used and monitored. So it's not about whether you have it. I'm using it effectively. So these are the extra documents that you could always add on. The next is IT infrastructure that they look at. In the IT infrastructure, they'll ask for the total bandwidth. They ask about student computer ratio. And I think for every 30 students or 20, I need to check the numbers, but there was a number being mentioned. For every 15 students, one computer. I need to check the numbers. I'll come back to it with the numbers. I'll inform the authorities, which they'll share in the group that you have. Then the high speed and reliable internet that you have, whether you have an LMS system which is required. Then the virtual labs, where you have virtual labs. Then whether you have licensed softwares, whether you use augmented reality or the virtual reality, all those things they look at. And they ask for geotag is the basic complaints, and then geotag photos. They need bills for any 1 month of in the latest year, along with the stock register and the minutes of IT committee, IT minutes. Whereas, for further, what I would suggest is, along with these stock register, whether you can show student usage, computer labs, show the student usage. These days, we have a student book, a register book. If they enter the computer lab, like in a library, they have to write down their name, in time, out time, and later the signature. So I can just showcase like this is what it is. LMS. They spoke about having manuals, screenshots being kept for LMS, but the question further came across was that I said spoke about earlier. There was a discussion that AI cross checks your effectiveness of your LMS. So if that happens, your LMS has to be perfectly done. So licensed software inventory means you can actually have various softwares that you have, and how well or how effectively have you used those softwares you can showcase. So the basic requirement is given on the right, and it's up to you how documentation you can increase so as to showcase the usage and effectiveness of these requirements of these infrastructure that you can add on. Then comes the I think everyone would have. You'll have lift or ramps, you'll have washrooms, you'll have tactile paths, then you'll have technologies in library which helps students with the differently able students. Then you have assistants on examination, like someone who can read questions, someone who can write answers as per whatever the student answers, tells him he can write down answers. Or you have a screen reading software. It could be anything. You need to have photograph videos, details of softwares. Other than that, what I would suggest to add on to this is a basic complaints. I would suggest to add on your plans, your building plans, where you have shown ramps, where you have shown lifts, where you have lifts, where you have tactile parts, along with photographs and videos. You can show that. Along with, you can have policy documents for examination, policy document for an autonomous college, where you allow scribe, where you allow reader, where you allow human assistants write examinations. Similarly, an affiliated college can have a policy. Affiliated college can actually adopt the university policy for that. And then you can actually have, if a student applies for it, keep those documents ready so that you have a data stat. In this year, these many students were given scribe facility, these many students were given a reader facility. You can showcase all those aspects as numbers. I'm not saying like you have to give the application, so with numbers. If they ask for proof, you can actually showcase it. Removing the student name, you can show that. Okay. The next is innovation resources. This is meant for university. So there was a lot of UN cry from various autonomous colleges and affiliated colleges. They said we already have set up an incubation center. So that day the discussion was like it could be shown as an best practice of the institution. So innovation resources for your IIC in Institution Innovation Council. Anyway, you're doing a lot of activities which again can be documented and kept every year. All right, and that is your criterion three, which is infrastructure. Any questions in infrastructure? If there are no questions, I'm moving forward with criterion four, that is financial resources. Like in NDRF, where they ask for the amount spent, the ratio of amount spent on operational expenses, on capital expenses, even the new NAC speaks about that. It doesn't speak about how much money you have or how much money you spent on various aspects. They asked about ratio of capital income. That means how much money you have raised from government to create capital, how much money you have raised from corporates, industry to create capital, how much money you have got as loan to create capital. Out of this money you have raised, how much you have actually spent on capital. Say, for example, I've got 1 crore on income to create capital and I only spent 50 lakhs. If I've got 1 crore, I need to spend 1 crore. So that has to be shown. Again, the proof they need is income expense statements. So if you need to rework on your ledgers, please do that. Okay, because you need to showcase that. Then comes is ratio of revenue income versus revenue expenditure. How much revenue have you generated every year on operational revenue? How much money have you spent on operations? Sending on operations are salaries, maintenance, administration, scholarship, your electricity, your transportation, your career guidance, skilling, employee benefits, extracurricular, co-curricular activities, and the money you received are basically your fees, your grants on your research and development, your salary grant from the government, alumni contribution that you've got, your consultant, your endowment, scholarship that you have received. So whatever money you have received on every year on a base for operations, how much have you spent? Again, they ask for your income expenditure statement. So if you want to work on your ledgers, please do work on your. Oh, I'm sorry, I've just moved ahead. So if you have on, you need to rework on your ledgers, please do rework on your ledgers. The next one we speak about is sustainability. Here, in sustainability, basically, it's for autonomous college. So, what are the strategies the autonomous college or the university has adopted to create a corpus fund so that they could have enough money to support the forthcoming years? So, how well they can sustain the future is what they look at. So you need to have documents. They basically ask for the audited income and expense statement. But if you have a corpus fund records on showing how it has grown over a period of time, you could actually create a plan for income generation from creating both revenue, annual revenue, as well as your capital revenue. You can show that how you're going to incorporate or how you're going to increase that. You can show for an autonomous college. This for an autonomous college. The next is how well are you controlling your expenses, whether you have internal audits. Your CA does your external audit, and what are the risk management perspectives. The problem that comes across here is internal audits we conduct, our CFO conducts along with the accounts. But do we have any documents for that? The answer would be no, which means you need to have records of internal audits conducted every year. Or rather, I would say every 6 months. Have an action taken report. Obviously, you will get a report from the auditor. External audit is done, clear. Risk management approach, that means do we identify the risk in case for a program, if there are no students, how are we going to sustain? Evidence of periodic risk assessments has to be conducted in terms of income generation as well as in terms of expenses. That is criterion 4. Moving on with criterion 5, we go with criterion 5 onwards, it's process. How well are we focusing on the process? Students have come. For that, we have four inputs: faculty, infrastructure, finance, and curriculum. Now, students are coming to how are we going to use these four inputs through a process? That's what teaching and learning is. First one is pedagogical approaches. For affiliate colleges, the last point, learning through problem solving and project based learning, are not there, but the rest are there. Do we have teaching and learning, group teaching and learning, individual learning and self study, game based learning? We call it as gamification. Whether we have technology based learning, whether we have peer teaching, whether we have project based learning. Now, we are an autonomous college. What we have done was, in entrepreneurship, we have a project based learning. Or one of the modules where students has to focus or create a product, an innovative product. So before that, module 3 and 4 is design thinking. After design thinking, they know how to create a product. So we have a project where students have to create a product and they have to sell that product. That's what we call as project based. Another is in business communication. I'm talking about my program, MBA. In business communication, is a course in our program called as MBA. Students has to create a vlog, a video, the YouTube channel. They have to create a vlog. They move around, speak. They go to a particular. So today, if it's tourism, they have to go to a tourist spot, create a vlog. Now, in environment management, what we have done is students has to create a documentary, an environment documentary, problem being faced in their locality. So rather than be teaching students about a lot of problems in the society, they goes to their locality and identify a problem and come back with a documentary. So it's up to you on how to create a project-based learning in an autonomous college. Okay. So whatever you do, they ask for sample lesson plan or the course teaching plan. Other than that, that's a basic requirement. Can you have an assessment report? How have you assessed them? Whether it's through a rubric, whether it's through some other way that you have assessed these kids. Along with that, can you keep photographs of this, videos of this? Along with that, if you can keep this for certain aspects, the faculty has to be trained. Say, for example, technology based learning. Now, this FDP program was on technology based learning. Can we have keep proof for that our faculty have been trained? So it adds more value. It for better levels. You need to show that we have advanced, we have matured. It's not a basic that we're looking at. We're going further ahead. Okay, so can we have more documents? The documents that I'm saying extra is basically from my perspective. Once you sit together along with your staff members, you can get n number of documents added on to. And I can say that because when we do a 2-day workshop on this, we have these activities being conducted among teachers, among faculty, where they come up with their institution project. We can do this, which they can actually link to them, that they have been doing it. Okay. The next is 5.2 LMS. Do we share materials? Do the students submit assignments through LMS? How are we assessing it? And are we providing a blended learning support? They ask for a basic requirement screenshots. Other than this, can we keep LMS usage reports showcasing these many students have logged in and these many hours students are spending on this? Can we have faculty records where teachers are being trained to use these LMS? Which means your faculty have been trained. If students are using it, which means students are being trained as well as students are using it. That's the effective usage comes into. So LMS is not about whether you have it, whether you effectively use it. Whether you have it, basic requirement. If you need to go further, it's how you add documentation to support your maturity levels. Criterion 3 that comes across is industry academy linkage. This is basically for an autonomous college where you can bring in, again, for an affiliate college, you could bring in, if the student satisfaction has to be improved, when you bring more industry experts. Yes, Uma ma'am, I'm sorry, you raised your hand, my mistake. Uma ma'am? Okay. Industry academy linkage. Okay, ma'am, no problem, ma'am. So if you look at the industry academia linkage, there are lectures from industry experts which you have to, okay, now whatever we are going to say now, your report should have brochure, brochure which speaks about the college name, the venue, the date, who is going to come, the aspect. These are minimal requirement required in a brochure. The rest you can add on more things. You need to have a brochure. You need to have a report of the event. You need to have attendance sheet of the event. You need to have geotag photograph of the event. And five, if possible, keep a 1 minute video of the activity. Now, they've not asked for a 1 minute video, but if you look at IIC started asking for it. So in the near future, they could also ask for, which we are not sure. So, if possible, brochure, report, attendance sheet, photograph, and a 1 minute video you can keep. For whatever you do, whatever activities you do, go with this. Okay. So once there is a lecture from the industry expert, have these things ready. Advantage with this is whatever we teach in the classroom, when an industry expert comes, they actually tell how it's been practiced in the industry. Students actually understands the subject that you have taught much better once this person tells how it's been done in the company. So you have taught the theory, the practical aspect has been discussed by the industry person. Advantage is student satisfaction improves. Now, this is something that we have implemented. What we have done is industry experts don't look for money. We basically give them a memento and they're happy with that. You could also try out with that. Field visits. Again, as I said, five things needed for field visits. Again, field visits should be a part of your course plan where you can showcase that it's a part of your course plan. Workshops with industry, you can plan. There are industries which does this along with I'm talking about, there are agencies which supports, there are industries which looks into it. You can does do that. Internships, if student goes for internships, have the internship report ready, have the acceptance report ready. Along with the acceptance report, if you can please also provide what do you call if you can also provide the internship completion report, the certificate given by the company, that adds value. Industrial visits, have all the five ready. Then organize a seminar or a workshop or a conference where you also call industry experts as keynote speakers. Again, that adds value. So proof of things are all these five things I've spoke about. Along with that, if you can have letters being kept, it adds value. Okay. So criterion five, teaching and learning. That's again a process that comes into picture. Then comes assessment components. How is your internal assessment being done? Is it through MCQ? Is it through seminar presentations? Is it through case study, projects, assignments, or any other aspect that you have? They ask for is your lesson plan and minutes of your relevant bodies, BOIS, examination committee, academic council, etc. So you can keep those things ready. Along with that, if we can also keep sample assessment papers. Now what we does is, if it's a class test, if it's an assignment, we have a front sheet. In the front sheet, student name, course, everything is written. And on that, for every, if it's an exam, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we have written CO1, we can write down whether the first question is of CO1 or not, and we write down the marks. Once the exam is over, we write down the marks on the front sheet. Students go through the answer sheets. If they are satisfied with this, they sign the front sheet. We are keeping the front sheet with us. So tomorrow, if there is a query, we can actually show the front sheet and we can say answer script has been given to students back as a feedback. Whereas this is the where student has accepted the marks. That is assessment papers we have kept. We have kept rubrics for presentations. For assignments, we have got rubrics. For projects, we have got rubrics. So again, in the rubric, we have the student signs on it. So we say students have presented it, and this is the rubric where the marks has been given to students. So a sample of how the marks has been given has been kept, which shows to the next level. Okay. The next is catering to diversity. Once these students comes into, we have an exam that we usually conduct to understand whether they are a slow or a advanced learner. What measures have you given for slow learners? How well have you effectively used remedial teaching? Do you have a bridge course? Bridge course is something like, I teach MBA. So we get kids from science background, we get kids from literature background, we get kids from arts background, and we get kids from the commerce background. So everyone's knowledge level is different. The accounting knowledge is different. For science, they don't have any knowledge in accountancy. So once we start the class, very first 3 weeks, we have bridge program. So we have got accounting, along with the Diksharam, we have got the accounting classes. We have got classes on business communication. We have got classes on QT, mathematics, because these are the basics students should have. So we have a bridge program, and after the bridge program, we conduct an exam to understand where each student stands. So we can map them as advanced learner or the mediocre or the slow learner. Now, what we have done was, we doesn't say like all these slow learners are always slow learners. We have a dynamic system. After the first internal exam, the slow learners could move, and someone in the moderate or the advanced can come down. So we have a dynamic system where we say like, uh, it all depends on the students that particular day's concerns. Might be that particular day student was not feeling well, the marks would have gone down. We cannot map them as 6 months as slow learners. So we have done that. Your college could change. You could say like 6 months we'll have slow learners. After first semester exam, we'll change the list again. But if you have a list, ensure that remedial teaching has been conducted. One of the concerns that I have noticed in various audits was, you have a slow learner list. But when I compare these two, slow learners are not in the remedial teaching class. Some other students are there. Out of 10 slow learners, 3 would be in these classes, whereas the rest would be advanced learners. So those things has to be mapped perfectly. What are you doing for advanced learners? We recommend students to do MOOC programs, online MOOC programs, from EDX, from Allison, or from Coursera, which our students does, which you could recommend. We have a peer teaching system, an advanced learner versus a slow learner. You could think on those. So all these has to be documented. It's not that you have this, but it's not been documented. You need to have all these things documented. So you need to have circulars. You need to have timetables of remedial teachings. You need to have report, photograph, attendance of each of these. Don't say like I have an attendance report of remedial teaching. Very good. Have a photograph and a report attached to it. It adds value. Okay, and then bridge course you can conduct. Once you conduct the bridge course, you need to have a syllabus. Show that syllabus. Show in that syllabus have a learning outcome, that after the bridge course my students can actually have this. So it all shows that you have matured from the existing basic requirement, you have gone above. Okay, the next is academic grievance. Okay, the next is academic grievance, wherein uh, it shows that how many revaluations has come into picture. This is for autonomous college, not for affiliated colleges. How many retotaling, how many revaluation questions have come. If revaluation is done, how many have improved marks, which means if they have improved marks, there is some issue. So how will you handle your grievance? So you need to have a policy document, and you have in your examination manual in the autonomous college, you should have a academic grievance redressal system. Along with that, you need to keep, this is the basic requirement. I would suggest you keep a grievance record also, saying like these many has been come into picture, but there is no change. Only 10% change has happened, or only 5% change. You can show that those numbers. There is no problem with that. Again, the controller of examination and autonomous college should have an annual report which all contains all these aspects. So I would suggest the autonomous college, Sarojini ma'am and Uma ma'am, if you could recommend, or if you could ask your controller of examination to have an annual report which shows the academic calendar being met, the exams is conducted, when the results were published. So all these things can be covered under that. The next is adherence to the academic calendar. This is what I said. The COE's report, annual report, should have these things: exam notification and the result notification, when what has happened. The past percentages can be mentioned in this. All this can be added on to this. So with the question is, 90 days in a semester has to be met. Whether have you met it? Whether whatever you have mentioned has been, that is, you have mentioned your exam is going to happen on those and so dates. Have you met on those? Whether the results were published within 30 days. UGC says 30 days, but the last time, that is the under the last NAC cycles, RIF, revised accreditation framework, if we have published your results in 15 days, you get 4 weightage. If you publish your results in 20 days, you get 3 weightage. So for an autonomous college, you can understand, like, if you publish in within 15 days your results, it's well and good for you. You get better weightage. So how well you're going to do it, that's the next question that comes into picture. The next we have is criterion 6, that is extended curricular engagements. The first one, 6.1, is domain related clubs. Your course or your program could have domain clubs. Now, don't have X number of domain clubs for the sake of doing it. The question is whether you have a domain club. If yes, you need to provide the list of students. You need to provide the list of activities. And for those activities, you should have report, brochure, photograph, video, attendance sheet. The next question is whether you have conducted programs under these, competitions under these. If yes, again, brochure, photograph, report, attendance sheet, video. So if you have a domain club, ensure that you conduct activities in it and have at least each program, let they have one domain club. MBA department, let us have one domain club. BSc zoology, let them have one domain club. Or each department, if we can have at least one domain club. Now, these clubs has to be mentioned in your prospectus or in your brochure that you have these many domain clubs. That again has to be added. Clear? Then, how many technical festivals, how many hackathons have you been conducted? Whether you have conducted workshops from these domain clubs or not, that again has to be a part of these domain clubs. The next is cultural clubs. You'll have theater club, you'll have music club, you'll have dance club. Well and good. How many clubs you have? How many activities have you conducted? How many institutions have participated in these festivals? Again, attendance sheet, video has to be a part of this. Okay. Then, whether you are a part of Ek Bharat Shreshth Bharat, EBSB, please, if you are not, identify a college. For Kerala, it's Shimla. For Kerala, it's Himachal Pradesh. So what we do is we identify a college in Himachal Pradesh. We conduct an Ek Bharat Shreshth Bharat event online. We invite some colleges from saying, like, if you have an excursion to Kerala, we are ready to host in a hostel. Oh, we'll plan your trip in Kerala, but spend a day in with us. We have a department who has got a 20-day travel or two. We have a travel and tourism department, but they have a 20-day tour, and they usually go to Himachal Pradesh. So they spend a day in one of the colleges there. Link it with the Ek Bharat Shreshth Bharat. You can cut online events with those institutions. Ek Bharat Shreshth Bharat comes under that. Okay. The next one is mental well-being clubs. If you don't have one, please start a club on mental well-being. Again, the question is, have you conducted activities? If yes, they need documents for that. They are asking for whether your teachers are trained for mental well-being of students. If not, please send at least 3 or 4 teachers for that. Details of trained counseling experts in the college. If you don't have none, please send one of the teachers as a trained counselor. I'm not saying like recruit one, I'm saying send one of the teachers to become a trained counselor. And then need a register of counseling. Don't discuss or don't give anything that the counselor has discussed with the student. No, they just need a register to say that, to showcase that counseling has been conducted. That's it. What has been discussed, that's private. That cannot be shared. That's confidential. But the register of that this has been conducted has to be kept. The next is value education. How many value education programs have been given by your institution? Last time the numbers they were looking at was 40 or 50, 40 or 30 have these kind of numbers. You need to have a syllabus. You need to have a registration record. You need to have photographs, videographs, attendance sheet, reports, feedback of those program. Please be ready with value education. The next is how many teams or sports clubs you have. Again, likewise, I said for arts, as I said for your cultural as well as domain club, same concepts comes here. Details of the existing clubs in your prospectus, in your brochure. For every activity, you need all the five things. Along with that, how many of your students have participated in external events organized by other institutions in state, in international, national levels? All those documentation has to be thoroughly ready. The next one is community focused activities. The problem that has come across is now we cannot just go do community based activities wherever we want. Please do it in your UBA village. I think everyone would have adopted a village under UBA, Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. All these activities has to be conducted under Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. And they basically ask for the report that you have submitted to UBA Delhi office, which means whatever activities you conduct has to be a part of your UBA activity. So all your societal activities you're going to conduct has to be a part of that. And these are the areas, arenas that they look at impact reports of gender ratio, impact reports of gross enrollment ratio, impact reports of what do you call on literacy rates. They look at recognitions for clean village, whether their village has got a clean village recognition, disaster free village, sorry, not disaster free, my mistake, disease free village, whether eco friendly village. They look for what are the awareness campaigns that you have conducted on constitutional, on energy literacy, on resource awareness. What are the various medical and hygiene camps you have conducted? Blood donation, village sports. What are the various school outreach programs you have conducted? Now, you need to have photographs, videographs, report, attendance sheet, as well as your brochure. And majorly, they're going to look at the report that you have submitted to UBA New Delhi. Okay. Continuity to this, they look at adoption list of villages that you have done. So please, I know that many of us conduct these community activities in the nearby locality of the college. Now we need to focusing towards our villages that we have adopted. If you have not adopted villages under UBA, please, it's high time that you have to adopt villages under UBA. Now, again, you need to have a need assessment report of that. Why have you conducted this program? That has to be showcased and shown. Along with that, if you can incorporate an agency, an industry, or an agency that would add value in criterion 10. Because criterion 10, the question is how many community service activities have you conducted in collaboration with industry or agencies? Now, one of the suggestions I can put across is uh, some of the colleges takes their students to an old age home. Now, old age home would be under a trust, right? So your college, in collaboration with that trust, is conducting this old age home visit. You can suggest like that. Now, if that old age visit is in so and so vicinity, it's not about the visit, but what have you done there? What have you contributed? Just visiting doesn't add any value at all. What contribution have you made to that particular old age home? Whether have you created a garden there, or whether you have bought medicines for them, or whether what have your students have done? What was your students takeout? Going there, what have they learned? That has to be shown. So if you can create an industry collaboration or a trust collaboration, and your NCC NSS, because again in criterion the question is how many community activities have you conducted through your NSS NCC, collaborating through NCC NSS. So whatever you do here, have a collaboration. That's about criterion 6. Now we are going to criterion 7, governance and administration. That again is a part of your process. Whether you do have an IDP, institutional development plan, how your institutions grow in the next 10 years, 5 years. In this, you need to have minutes of the meeting. You need to have minutes of the meeting, means minutes of the committee, IDP committee. You need to show IDP document, geotag photos of showing vision mission. Along with that, for further improvements, what I would suggest is if you could also have involvement of various stakeholders, where you need to have bring in your students, your faculty, your retired faculty, your alumni, your management. Now, we have also taken comments from our vicinity, the neighbors, what their expectation from us is. So you can bring in all the stakeholders to campus, give them points that they did discuss. There is an IDP draft document given by UGC. If you have not done a or developed an IDP document, please go through that draft document. You can understand what the expectation on 12 parameters are. So it ranges from research to infrastructure to, there are 12 parameters that you can focus on, and how the expectation of your stakeholders are that you can work on. So that's the very first thing, IDP, whether you have an IDP document or not, which you need to create now. The second one is effective leadership, how effective your leaders are. I think this was a part of your old RAFs. I'm just going to skip because we have already done one, except one or two. The rest have gone through the NAC process. So that is the same concept that we have taken here. This is not something new that has been added. The next one is the IQAC, Quality Assurance System. Again, it's a replica from the last accreditation cycles, RIF, Revised Accreditation Framework. So in Criterion 5, we had these. In Criterion 4, we had the Quality Assurance. So that again comes here. So I'm going to skip this also. The next is something new that is for university, not for Autonomous College or Affiliating College. So I'm going to skip that also now. The next is student and employee welfare. This was again in the last framework. It was the what are the various framework student welfare or and employee welfare measures been implemented, which again you could showcase and put across. Next again is from the last framework, efforts for employability. How many life skill workshops, personal development programs, aptitude development programs, communication development programs, whether you have conducted pool campus drives, and whether you have a mentoring system or not. So all these things were in the last cycle, I mean the last revised accreditation framework which you have gone through. Which, so because of the adequacy of time, I'm just skipping these things which you have already done. That is the reason why I'm skipping that. Then grievance handling, whether you have an internal complaints committee, whether you have an anti-ragging cell, whether you have a counseling center, whether you have a grievance redressal cell. Ombudsman is for the university, not for us, not for autonomous or affiliating college. Whether you have got an SC/ST cell, OBC cell, and if you have any other cell to handle the grievances. Again, these things you have already done in the last RIF, except two, the rest have already gone through the NAC accreditation process. I'm going to skip this also. The next is e-governance, that is NAD implemented. Have you implemented National Academic Depository? Then whether you have implemented Academic Bank of Credits or not, which now all autonomous colleges has to be implementing this. Then finance and accounts related, whether you have Tally, whether you have softwares for your finance and accounts, whether you have softwares that supports in paperless office, then whether you have a system for your admission process, whether you have a system for your examination section, whether you have a system, an IT safe system, you have a firewall system. So all the documentation, proof of subscription to IT softwares, or proof of subscription of your firewall systems or your servers, all these things can be shown here. I'm just skipping this because we have already done that last accreditation cycle during your accreditation cycle, since only two are new to NAC accreditation. Then comes is national international collaboration. Uh, that is basically your student exchange, your faculty exchange. Only thing is you have to conduct at least one activity for that MOU to be active. So what we have done is instead of departments going with collaboration, what we have done is as an institution, St. Albert's goes on collaboration. If BSc Zoology has brought in, the Department of Zoology has brought in the collaboration, what we do is Albert's through its Department of Zoology. Now, advantage with this is Department of Zoology is the single point of contact of this collaboration. Now, as a college, if MBA department wants to conduct a program along with that company, I go to Department of Zoology HOD. HOD will speak with the company and program is conducted for my students. So there is only one single point of contact as per the company is concerned, that's Department of Zoology. But at least two or three departments conduct activities under this. So zoology will obviously conduct one activity. Another two activities are conducted by other departments. So literally three activities are conducted under the MOU. So if you have an MOU, what I would suggest is please have at least two or three activities. At least have one activity be conducted to make it more efficient. Have guest lectures, have visits, industrial visits, have students going meeting them. All these kinds comes under that. The next is new faculty retention. What is the percentage of faculty retained during the last 3 years? You have to give a certified list of faculty you have left in the last 3 years. That is the need. To retain the faculty, if you have conducted events, you might conduct FDP, you might conduct events for faculty to improve their satisfaction. For that, you have to showcase activities, brochure, photographs, event, videographs, etc. If the retention was higher in the, sorry, if the attrition was higher in the first year, that means retention was lower. What action have you taken so that the retention can be increased in second year? You have to showcase that. This is highly required now. This is a new one. So if your retention rate is good, very good. If your rate is not so good, means more people are leaving the organization. Something is wrong. Identify it, rework on that, and then go for the next year to see whether your retention have improved or not. Your retention has improved, which means whatever actions you have taken is good. Continue with that. This is again is required. That's about criterion 3. Sorry, criterion 7. Now I'm gonna go a bit faster with criterion 8. I'll take another 10 more minutes to finish it off. Student enrollment. Percentage of students admitted. This is something that you do with your NIRF. How many of you have not gone for NIRF? Is there anyone who have not gone with NIRF? Okay, so here they basically look at the number of seats you have, number of students you have admitted to those seats. It's a percentage that they look at. So I think last time it was 90 percentage. It's for weightage. Okay. Now here you need to have the reports that you have sent to the university. Okay. Now you would have sent the documents to university saying like these are the number of students that has been admitted. That's what they're looking at. The next is graduate progression. That is percentage of placements, higher education, employment, or self-employment. Sorry, not employment, self-employment. The problem here is earlier days for placements, we used to give offer letter. Here they need appointment letters. Progression, they need to have a letter. Students who have gone for higher education, they would have got an admission letter. You have to keep that admission letter. And for self-employed, a certified list has to be given as self-employed. The next is percentage of students. This is for affiliating colleges. There was a lot of hue and cry that why it's only meant for affiliating college. So the answer was like autonomous colleges do have they can tweak in the pass percentage, and we are not sure how it's going to move forward. So for affiliating colleges, they look at the pass percentage, the result sheet that they have received from the university is a document that they have to put across. The next one is award prizes and recognitions received by your students in curricular, extracurricular activities, and they need e-certificates of copies, award letters. Okay, So external awards received. Here they speaks about external awards, not the internal awards. If they got award from the college, they're not focusing on that. They're focusing on external awards on arts, science, sports, literature, co-curricular, including the best paper. All these things are being considered here. The next one, student satisfaction. Earlier, this was meant only for our students. Now, it's also last 3 years of alumni has to be given. So we don't know. 50% of alumni could get it. 50% of alumni means you don't have any control on alumni. If everyone responds, your score could go up or your score could go down, which means you have to ensure that your existing alumni, I mean, your existing students are satisfied so that even if they pass out, they're going to speak very good about you. The next, we are going to focus on criteria 9, that is research outcomes. That's again the criterion 8 was outcome number 1, that's student outcomes. Here comes your research outcome. Research grant, number and amount of externally funded grants from the government. From, if it is from a non-governmental grant for an autonomous college, if you received 5 lakhs from a company, I can consider as a non-governmental grant. If it's 4,99,000, I cannot consider it as a research grant. For a non-government grant, the amount is 5 lakhs. For an affiliating college, that's 50,000 rupees. If it's 49,000 rupees you have received as a research grant, it cannot be considered from a non-government research grant. It has to be 50,000. Okay, so please ensure that if you get a non-governmental grant, it has to be either more than 50,000 for an affiliating college or more than 5 lakhs for an autonomous college. Under RIF, if you have received 50 lakhs, that was considered as 4 weightage, but for the new criteria we don't know what the numbers they're going to put across. The next one is research publication. Please ensure that you have got ample enough of research publications in journals listed in Scopus WS or peer reviewed, along with conference papers that have to be indexed, index conference proceedings, and then book chapters or books. So please, if you need to get a minimal number, because it's 25 marks into 4 weightage, that's 100 marks for an autonomous college. So if you need to get 4 weightage, the number has to be good enough. So the departments or the college has to come up with numbers that you're going to put across. H index of the institution. We don't have any say. If you go for Scopus index journals, or obviously if someone cites your H index could go up. So the average H index, what the number is, so which means Scopus publication has to be improved. This is for an autonomous college, 80 marks, 20 marks into 4 weightage. Number of PhDs awarded per eligible guide during the last 3 years. I said it's not for 5 years, we look at 3 years now for under the new scheme. So number of PhDs awarded per eligible guide. So it's a request that you can make to the research guides that you have. Usually we have a tendency, I'm a research guide, I don't go behind my scholars. Whenever they come, I give them my suggestions. They'll come back with incorporating my suggestions, and then they'll come back further with suggestions. Now we have to move further, and we have to actually tell them that we have to be more proactive so that they clear in 3 4 5 years time rather than 6 or 7 years, 5 6 or 7 years. So that again has to be looked into. The next one is not meant for, this one is not meant for you, autonomous college or affiliated college. So I'm going to skip because that's about the research fellowship, the JRFs, how many research fellows are there. That's for universities. The next one again is for autonomous college and universities. That is total number of intellectual properties, patents you have, copyrights you have, design registrations that you have come across with. So if you don't have any autonomous college, I would request you start doing it. It's 20 marks, 5 into 4, that you can start working on that. The next one is consultancy and training, again for autonomous colleges. Please, if you don't have consultancies, start doing consultancy work. When I use the term consultancy, what I mean is there is a problem in the industry, you solve that problem for the industry and you get paid by the industry. Okay, which means you're selling. It's not a research grant. Industry has got a problem and you're solving it. Example, one of the reason consulting assignments we have done was, um, we have gone, I mean, one of the companies based in Tamil Nadu, their sale in Europe and as well as Gulf is huge. Again, that product is selling like hotcakes in Tamil Nadu, and the Keralites in Gulf is buying that product. But they're, when that product is not being sold much like hotcakes in Kerala. Why? So they want to understand, even though they buy, the Keralites buy that product in Gulf in good numbers, they're not buying in Kerala. Why? We actually studied, we have done surveys, we studied what went wrong and why it's not been sold. We went back with the solution. Another is, we conduct a lot of audits, internal audits for institutions, the academic and administrative audits. We give them the reports where they lack, what could go wrong, what went wrong, and then we come back with solutions that you can do this. We create policies for the institutions then, so that the process and procedures can be developed. That's a consulting assignment we do. So likewise, your institution can look into what can you do, and then develop projects so that you get create money. And in the last cycle, it was 30 or 40 lakhs consulting assignment, what that we're looking at. Coming back to criterion 10, that's about sustainability, that is community activities. In criterion 3, we had extension activities. That is what came here. Only thing is how many community activities have been conducted through NSSNCC, and how many percentage of activities are conducted through NGOs, industry and professional bodies. In criterion 6, I already spoke, criterion 6, I already spoke about this, wherein, and along with UBA, you can do this. Other than UBA also you can do, but ensure that you have NSS, NCC, and industry linked. And how the industry can be linked also I've already spoken about. So again, all the 5 things: brochure, photograph, event, report, attendance sheet, as well as your videograph is required in this. The next is waste and water management. This was there in the previous NAC cycle. Same thing, only difference is we went for an audit in one of the organizations, and they have these 3 layer, what do you call, waste management system. Plastic recycled waste can be put into one, the biodegradable waste to put into one, and something that can be thrown away has been put into one. Everything was perfect. So what, once we went through, we loved their waste management process, and later when we went to one corner, whatever waste been collected in 3 different things has been dumped into one. So we asked a question why. They said the corporation is going to take it. So then, what was the point of I mean, what was the point of bifurcating the waste? So whatever you do, there has to be a process and procedure. At the end of the game, you shouldn't just throw it up together. So that has to be managed. So geotag photos of all the facilities, bills for all the equipments that you have brought. If you have done a green audit, you need to have that report of the green audit. Again, for green audit, there is agencies recognized by NAC, which you have to focus on. All right, and the maintenance reports has to be maintained. Next one is progressing towards net zero. Whether you have solar energy, whether you have wind energy, whether you use biogas plant, whether you're giving solar energy to the grid, whether you have sensor based energy conservation. That is, this we have done in our various floors. When a student works in the evening, the light automatically switches on. So it's for us also in the evening, in the late night, we can, so if some students is walking, we can know like, okay, students are walking through that corridor. In our library reading rooms, we have kept that. Reading rooms, when students are there, the light switches on. Once a student leaves, if it's inactive for 3 minutes or 4 minutes, it automatically switches off. So whether you have sensors on that, or even for water, if you have a press pipe, when you press, water flows. Once you remove, water stops, which shows when there is use, water flows or is not. So again, for that, you need to have the geotag photos, videos, bills of all these things has to be kept. And the next is green audit initiatives. Whether you have conducted an energy audit, whether you have conducted an water audit or a green audit, For that, there are agencies mentioned by NAC. You have to go through them. Then whether you monitor air pollution, it hardly costs you 3-4 thousand rupees for that monitor. Then water budgeting, how much water are you getting, how much water getting from the corporation or from the government, how much water do you get from your rainwater harvesting or from other sources, how much water do you have. So all these documentation has to be kept. Then what are the out of campus initiatives you have taken to ensure sustainability? How are you promoting usage of electric vehicles in campus? So all these things you need to have a policy document that needs to be added on. So this is just that I've tried to give you about the new framework of binary. The MPGL we are expecting in the near future. Once we have it, we have been during the discussion it was discussed like 80% of the aspects would be similar in this line. So we need to start working from today onwards. If we are not started working in this aspect, because if your NAC grade ends in 24, 25, 26, and then you're on an extension right now, within 3 months of MPGL document framework release, you have to apply for it. So please, it's high time that you need to work on this. And I'm sorry I was a bit fast rather than doing a lot of activities, because 2 hours, it's like a 2-day workshop I've compiled to 2 days, I mean 2 hours. So I'm really sorry I'm being very fast in this aspect. So any questions, I'm more than happy to address those questions. If you have any questions, please.
Thank you very much, sir, for your insightful and enlightening session. Your detailed explanation of the NAC binary accreditation framework and the requirements for quality preparedness has given all of us a clearer understanding of our roles and responsibilities in the accreditation process. The practical insights and guidance you shared will help teachers and academic staff contribute more effectively towards maintaining quality standards and fostering a culture of continuous improvement. We sincerely appreciate the clarity, expertise, and experience you brought to this session. Thank you, sir. We will now move on to the Q&A segment. I request the participants to ask their questions and engage in a discussion with our esteemed speaker. Please type your questions in the chat box and we will take them one by one. Sir, our faculties have few questions.
Yeah.
First question is from Ms. Sahana. For documentation, do letterheads and the font size matter? And if it's for a committee or department, what are the exact documents we need to maintain?
One is, it's not about the number that they look at. Now it all depends on, say for example, if you look at the last NAC revised accreditation framework, they ask like the percentage of students has conducted extension activities. That means if I have 4,000 students, what percentage of students has contributed to the extension activities? Now if I have a domain club, say for example, I have a marketing club in my MBA department. I've got, let's say, 120 students in MBA. Let's go with something like this. We have 800 students in management department alone, including my MBA, BBA, logistics, travel and tourism, retail, etc. We have about 780 odd students, and we have a club called as Edge. That's an entrepreneurship. Now, out of these 800 students, how many students have been a part? Club related to my department, your students could take part in various activities of the club. Only 5 students are taking part. It doesn't mean that my club is effective. My club will only become effective when I have more students participating in it. So that is that you can look into. What was the second part of the question? I'm sorry. Hello.
Sir,
What was the second part
committee,
of the question?
yes, sir. Committee and the department, what are the exact documents that they have to maintain? And
Okay.
first,
Now, if you look into so if you look into all the 10 criterias, I have actually focused. Say, for example, for an autonomous college, yes, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. Okay. So for an autonomous college, a department has to maintain the BOS. Now, again, when it comes to the college aspect, they need to have the academic council and the governing council minutes. Now, in a department, if you look at my requirement documents I've spoke about, I was telling about various requirements. Now, IT committee should have the minutes of IT committees. what are the various measures they have taken in terms of e-governance, what are the various action taken reports of e-governance related, what are the various measures they have taken in terms of complying to the digital resources. Library committee should have related to the books, related the minutes of the meetings along with the purchase orders, along with the invoices. They should maintain the usage reports. So it all depends on committee to committee, whatever the committee can contribute onto these 10 criteria. So it again, as a standard template, I cannot give you a number because each college is different from college to college perspective. So my college template cannot be fit into another college. So you, as a college, what I would suggest is let the IQAC conduct an internal audit, understand where you stand right now, understand various committees that you have, and then once you have these documentation ready, it is more easier for you to actually understand where you stand and what you need. And if you need, what I can do is once you've done this audit, if you need, if you can give that report, I can suggest what you can do. That's not a problem for me. I can help you out in that. And if you can give me what are the various committees that you have and what they do actually today, I can add on more points to it saying like this can be added on. So for the effective management of the committee, that I can suggest and help you out in that.
The next question is from Dr. Yashwant Kumar. What kind of programs can be conducted under Indian knowledge system?
Okay, it all depends to college, as I said. Now, if each and every program, say for example, in MBA, as I said, one of the programs that courses in my syllabus that we offer is ethos, the Indian ethos, which sorry, not Indian ethos, ethics from scriptures. Indian ethos is in BBA, my mistake. So ethics from scriptures is where we teach students what are the various ethical conclusions or what are the various dilemmas that scriptures had and how it was handled. Similarly, in maths, we have BSc mathematics where we have Vedic mathematics. We have BSc botany. They have got a subject on Ayurvedic plants. We have got a subject on computer science. These people, they couldn't come up with anything related to computers. What they did was they came up with data set of Ayurvedic plants. They can create software, so they need data. So they took data sets on related to Ayurveda. So college to college, you would think into what course can be added into your program. Whereas if it is, you could come up with a mindfulness meditation. It could be a one-day workshop. That is how to improve your learning skills through meditation. On yoga, one of my friends has got a research grant in this. What he did was his research proposal is similar to if a student does yoga in the morning, whether there is an improvement in marks. So he has got two data sets: 30 students without doing yoga and 30 with doing yoga before class. How is their what do you call their understanding levels, whether it has been improved? He's doing a study on that now. So you could do anything. Yoga could be one aspect. You could have mindfulness meditation is another thing that you could as a workshop or a activity. So whatever you could visit, this is one of our departments does that. They visit one of the old architectural what do you call understanding that building doesn't have any fans inside it, but it's still cold. So how it's been happening. So that is one of our departments does that. So it depends on department to department that you could always look in and work out.
Okay, sir. So next question is from Ms. Vani. For extended curricular engagements, can we include programs conducted by NSS or NCC?
Now, NSS and NCC usually conduct programs that is related to extension activity, that is community engagement activities. Extended curricular basically focuses on your domain related or your arts, your cultural club related, your mental well-being club related, or your sports related, etc. Now, what I would suggest is if an NSS is conducting the program, there is no related to this is not a problem, but in collaboration with if you can add these committees so that you can showcase it over here. So the domain club would have an extra activity added on. That's not a problem. But have a collaboration. Because as per my understanding, NSS and NCC does for extension activities.
So last question is from Gayatri K. Sir, are these updated details available in NAC website?
Ma'am, what I can do is this I've taken from the workshop when we went for the workshop the NAC had a stakeholders meeting way back in 2024. So that was the third stakeholder feedback meeting when I went, which was later updated. So what I can do is, if you need, this is one of the documents I made for my college in 2024. If you need, I can share that. So please don't mind. This is a internal circulatory document that I've shared with my college, with my management to work on. That I can share. That's not a problem because that's not my document. I can do that. I can share with the committee. They can share with the team.
Okay, sir. Thank you for sharing your valuable expertise and making the session highly insightful for all of us, sir. We are deeply grateful for your time and contribution. I also thank the audience for their active participation. As we conclude the final session of this faculty development program, it is my pleasure and privilege to propose the vote of thanks. First and foremost, I extend our heartfelt gratitude to Reverend Father Edward William Saldana, Secretary MDES, for his gracious presence and inspiring vision and constant guidance. We also extend our genial thanks to Reverend Father Dr. Sabu George, CMF, General Manager, Claretian Educational Institutions, Bangalore, for graciously accepting our invitation and serving as the chief guest for this online faculty development program. We are equally thankful to Reverend Father Naveen Kumar A., Treasurer MDES, for his continuous encouragement and support. A very special thank you to Mr. Sebi Maveli, CEO Training and Development MDES, for his timely inputs. Our sincere appreciation to our principal, Dr. Chandrasekhara Hetchin, for his leadership and dedicated efforts in making this program a success. We also thank Ms. Naina KS, IQAC coordinator, for her unwavering support and meticulous coordination of the proceedings. I would also like to extend my sincere gratitude to all the speakers who conducted the sessions over the past 6 days and generously shared their knowledge and valuable insights with us. I would like to thank Dr. Shaini CM, Professor, Department of Management Studies, Adishankara Institute of Engineering and Technology, Kaladi, Kerala. Ms. Jisha J, Assistant Professor, Adishankara Institute of Engineering and Technology, Kaldi, Kerala. Dr. Fariz Ahmed, CEO, Cooler Technologies and Engineers Private Limited, Kerala, and Dr. Georgios Fernandez, Professor and Dean Management Studies and International Affairs, St. Albert College, Kochi, Kerala. Their expertise has undoubtedly enriched this faculty development program. A big thank you to Mr. Ashwath, technical team, and committee conveners for their careful planning and tireless work behind the scenes to ensure everything runs smoothly. Last but not least, my heartfelt thanks to all the faculty members and moderators for their hard work during the preparatory stages and participants for their enthusiastic participation. Your interest and involvement made this FDP truly meaningful. Once again, thank you all for your presence and contribution. I request the participants to kindly fill the feedback form without fail, as it is vital for certificate distribution. The link is posted in the chat box as well as the WhatsApp group. We also request all the participants to kindly switch on their cameras for a few moments as we capture a group photo. Thank you, everyone. Thank you all for supporting this FDP for a period of 6 days. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you, sir.
One నిమిషం.